Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for coming. My name is Jeremiah Tesla, and I'm creative director of Iittala. We're going to have a design talk for the next couple hours. Please come, feel free to sit and join us. We're going to have, the theme of this talk is called Reset Your Home. So it's a theme that we've been exploring as a company, because the company makes a lot of physical products. We're really interested in what people do with the products, so the behaviors and the rituals around the products. So we invited three, let's say, young, creative, new talents from Finland to open up the theme of what do we mean by reset the home? What do we mean by new behaviors in living? So we have Ville Kokkonen, right here. So Ville is an Finnish industrial designer based in Switzerland. And his office centers on a project portfolio that's probing advanced product properties driven by technological and scientific discovery. So Ville will be first. Then we've got, let's see, we've got Katri Sarikivi right here. So Katri is a cognitive neuroscientist leading the NEMO project at the Cognitive Brain Research Unit of the Faculty of Medicine, Helsinki University. She might tell you a bit about that project when she starts her talk. And the last speaker for today will be Santtu Mustonen. So a New York-based Finnish artist is interested in constructing and visualizing the emotions of suspense, excitement, distortion, and the surreal through painting, movement, and new technologies. Okay, so everyone welcome Ville.
Thanks, Jeremiah. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Iittala, and thanks, Jeremiah, for the invite. I was thinking about the theme that, or the topic of the day, and tried to figure out what could I share from my practice, that what I do on a daily basis, and came to the conclusion that I'll show briefly about what I do, about the work and some research that is the biggest part of the projects that I'm working on, and actually the formal and aesthetic quality is usually the secondary and the smallest part of the work. But I went back to actually to the changes that I have experienced in the last few years, and I wanted to show this image. This is really close by where I live currently, and my background is that I was born to a city. I really enjoyed living in the city. Most of my life, I loved skateboarding, cycling, running into inner courtyards. I was walking in the roofs of Helsinki, and I felt that I'll never ever move to the countryside. Although I enjoyed visiting the forest, I wanted to use the knife and puukos and everything to create things. But up until I've been living now in Switzerland a little over 3 years, and from which the last year I have lived really close to nature. I would have never ever expected this to happen. Perhaps it relates to my age or shift in thoughts, but I discovered that without first reading any articles or doing research about it, that being in the forest and looking further away, it really helped me to forget everything that I was stressed about and made me think differently. And I would have never expected this to happen in such a powerful way. And how I wanted to link this to the theme is that I think the same goes into the spaces where we spend most of our time. So I wanted to choose just a second. Do you have, yeah, it seems to be frozen. Okay, so here I want to show this image. It's probably quite a traditional Finnish home, but 100 years ago. And this is linked to, came about, linked to research that I'm doing with my wife, Larissa Colombo, at the moment, with the National Museum here in Finland. I won't get into that, but I wanted to show this image to kind of think that nowadays we have in our kitchens maybe close to 1,000 different items. And then on top of that we have home appliances, furniture. We're really filled with all this visual information. And when I was looking into these images and discovered that in Finland, for a very long period of time, there was no furniture. There was only the bench, a long bench and a table. And I started to think, like, how come actually the chairs came into the space? But then looking further into it, also there was this situation that houses were really small and people slept on the floors. And you only had one spoon that you put on the wall when you entered the space, and you joined this communal dinner. So first I was like, oh, this must have been such harsh times and so depressing that all these like 10 people were sleeping on the floor. They all sat next to these long benches, ate from the same cup. And so your mindset is kind of reduced. You just think that, okay, this must have been really difficult times. But then I realized it was really momentarily. They only ate for the moment that the potatoes were finished, and they slept only the night, but they didn't really spend time inside. It was all in the nature. They took care of the animals, they went to the forest to hunt, they got adrenaline from the stimuli of being scared of the bears and the wolves. And that made me think that how things must have been so different and perhaps actually even more stimulating than any of the items that you had indoors. So these kind of things, when there's a project, I really try to look into the archetypes and the reason of the first items, how they were developed and how people lived alongside them. And then this takes me to this project that I'm working on. Currently, started 2 years ago to work with the Finnish company in Jyväskylä that used an older technical innovation created by NASA of how plants can actually purify indoor air. And it's not actually the plants that purify the air, but the roots and the root system. It's sitting in this granulus of that has a microstructure, and the roots themselves clean all the VOCs and particles from the air. It's sucked inside the chamber and then blown out back to the room. And this was the invention, and we really start to think, how should this item look like? There's no such high-tech green walls that existed before. How should we start off? Should it be linear? Should it be in the ceiling? Should it be on the floor? Is it a column? But it's still quite a large item. And without coming to the perfect conclusion, we made them just based on the volume, the size, and tried to minimize the space that it needs on the floor. But we are still in the process of now that the first range has come out and people are using them, it is quite a big item. It's green, they're plants, and some of them are next to the wall, some of them are standalone. But we are not still yet sure if this is the right form, and we're actually now debating if you could actually use the algae and all this could be hidden, so there wouldn't be another item added to the mixture of appliances that we have, like the fridge and all the other washing machines and so on. And during this project, this company now, as research director, has been studying that how the visual effect of being in the forest actually helps people to relax. We're not really sure about that yet, but he said that even having plants at home might make people to feel that they're not in front of their laptop, they actually are partly being in the forest or partly close to nature. And this theme has been going on quite a bit, and I also utilized the information that I got from the previous project in this prototype that I was developing for a Finnish company that wanted to showcase their expertise by using solar cells and carbon fiber, and we started to think about the off-grid. This came from various research papers that how we can actually now work from anywhere. We don't have to be in the office. We sleep at home, we have dinner at home, but we spend so much time inside, and are there possibilities to actually change this pattern, to actually we could work outside, do reading and other aspects of work outside where we don't have to be inside and breathe the dusty office air. So the forms that I try to create with these projects, that there's no archetype or no sample that has been created before. I try to often to think how the formal language, how something that I have to design, I have to decide the material, the formal language, how does that communicate the function of the product? Products can be successful, but it could be for numerous different reasons. And even successful products don't necessarily communicate the function or communicate new information. And now, since a year, I've been involved in a project where we're trying to think of a new item that will have a massive impact to our streetscape and our living environments, and this is the 5G network. In this project, there are several different companies that are bringing their knowledge to the table, and these are all sorts of transistors, transmitters of information, different devices that detect the air, temperature, different qualities, and these all have to go to one package. And in order for this 5G network to work, these sort of hubs have to be within 100 meters, or there will be, within, now the recent discovery is that it's, I think, within 15 meters we need these hubs in order that the 5G network is active. And it seems like there's no way that anybody can stop this. The technology is pushing it, and when the 4G network seems to get old, we have to adapt. So do we hide all this into streetlights? How will be the item that we have them at home? We need several of these in larger indoor spaces, and this will be a huge disruption again. Another item that will go along with the furniture, another device that now we carry in our pockets. Who will decide how it will look like? So I'm very interested to be in this project, but it really took me down to look into to convince these companies that it shouldn't be just another speaker in the ceiling that doesn't really tell us anything. When we look at that, and to show that to a kid and say that this is related to music, they wouldn't create that link, that this box with the grid actually is the speaker. So we tried to go back and try to figure out what sort of form would communicate that there is, this hub will enable you to use your phone, your laptop, your dishwasher at the same time. So we're going into this network of domestic items that are semi-intellectual. So one of the discoveries was I went into the early days of how information was communicated, and looked into Carl Friedrich Gauss's works, and I want to quote. This is really something that made a big difference, and I wanted to say today. It's not knowledge, but the act of learning, not possession, but the act of getting there, which grants the greatest enjoyment. And when I thought about this, then I also got a link to a recent project that I did some years ago. I was able to work with an Italian designer called Enzo Mari, and he was always preaching about what is true design. And he said that design is not design if it doesn't communicate knowledge. And I think there's something really true to that. I'm not a person who believes into always different methodologies. I think that each project is very different, but I always tend to go back and look into what have the earlier inventors and the scientists done before. So I came across the basic standards that have always helped us to define accuracy and kind of like the backbone of knowledge. And I took this photo in Paris, and I realized that how incredible it has been that in several different blocks in the city of Paris, they had this meter sign outside of the building, because people didn't have these measurements, and how could a measurement be always accurate? So you could just go to the next urban area, take your wooden stick, take your cloth, and take the meter distance and bring it to wherever you needed that. So then I started thinking like what would be today this sort of a similar thing that we could use. And I also started to look into what was the original kilogram, how did these standards that we use today, how did they come about? And I was fascinated with the kilo and discovered that an article that even today they have a problem with the original kilo, which is sitting somewhere in a basement in Paris. It's platinum for the reason that it doesn't. When they use it, when they measure, there's 34 of these all over the world where they take the kilo and then they use that as a reference to balance out scales, and later on, of course, we have the digital information, but now they discover that even this is not accurate anymore. So they take this out every 50 years and they remeasure it, and supposedly it has lost a little bit of its weight. So 1 grain of sand we have lost, perhaps it's through the corrosion or something, but it's getting less heavy. So now they have discovered a way how to calculate the atoms in a way that could be used as the new sort of standard kilo. And this is just to showcase, supposedly when they do these exchanges every 50 years, there's 3 people that have 3 different keys, and then they can all go together to open the kilogram, the original kilogram, to remeasure it and to see how the weight has changed. And also, I looked into kind of the early inventions of measuring devices, and I wanted to show this polar heart rate monitor that is called the sport tester, and gave this digit of someone who was running and checked afterwards his heart rate. How much do these numbers give us the information that what should we do? Of course, a professional athlete probably knows what this means, if they have to put their pace down, or if they should run faster. But for example, how much information we read today about the humidity of the air, and do we understand if it's 60% or 50%, if it's good for us? How would these ways of communicating, how could we simplify or make them more humane? So these are kind of the thoughts that I think we should take more into consideration. And I wanted to show this as well, a project that was done with a small startup here in Helsinki, where they used laser scanning to get an accurate overview of your physique. So they have a device where you stand for you stand on a platform and you spin twice, and they get, I think now, close to 2 millimeter accuracy of your full, like your skin's 3D contour. And that, together with the weight, you can really follow which part of your body is moving, what is your physical health, this related to your diet. And all this information is coming, but then what do you do with that information? How is it communicated so it's readable? And is it only that when you see that perhaps your belly is growing, okay, now I have to cut down on my diet? Or so these are kind of questions that there's never the true answer, but I try to figure out ways how these things will be communicated. Is it so that this is 3D printed for the client and then they have the small dolls at home? Or is it something that it's just digits that actually it's more user-friendly to follow up your track? And that's all for today. And I just want to finish off with this image of cows close to our place, and also kind of made me think that have we lost something when we don't actually spend time with animals? Is this something that perhaps could be thought about if it's the forest? Is it the people or the animals that we should spend more time with to kind of reset the speed? Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Katri. I run a research project at the university where we investigate the neural mechanisms of empathy and good connection and interaction between people. And we're especially interested if we could make these mechanisms function in a better way when we interact online. But today I'm going to tell a story about something a little different. I'm going to speak about the meaning of home, what it has meant for the human species in terms of our cognitive development or in terms of our social development. Sit back and relax and enjoy a short story about the history of, or the evolution of our home. About 15 million years ago, the species of the hominids were born. It's a species of primates that human beings belong to. And we do know relatively little of these common ancestors. We don't really know how they spent time. Maybe for them, the entire world was their home, where they ate, where they slept, where they convened. But then, about 3.3 million years ago, something a little interesting happened, because we started making tools. And with the help of these tools, we could overcome the limitations of our bodies. We could also overcome the limitations of our minds. And we started working together in different ways. We started hunting together, we started sharing food, and we started surviving together in a new way because of the technology that we had created. And as a result, we started building temporary habitats, temporary homes, so we could spend a little more time together. We started enjoying each other's company. We started playing together. This is a photo of a prehistoric flute. It's carved out of bone. And a little closer to our time, about 12,500 years ago, something really spectacular happened. It's called the Neolithic Revolution. That signifies a period of time in our history where we experienced really, truly great technological and scientific and social advancement. And it was all brought on by the invention of farming. We came up with the idea of planting crops in order to eat and to cook. We started cooking food, we started eating together, and we started building more permanent abodes, more permanent places where we could meet, share food, eat together, and think together. And so I propose that the emergence of home, or the meaning it has in our society, is really tightly linked to food and eating and sharing food. And because of the emergence of these homes, our communities became stronger. We could work together in a more efficient way. And through a stronger community, we could accelerate learning. We could accelerate the cognitive development of the human species. And during the Neolithic era, we made fantastic advancements, fantastic new discoveries and inventions, including the following. We invented the wheel together. We invented astronomy together, agriculture, as I said, mathematics, and writing. Not bad, I think, yeah? And based on this development, we were able to thrive, truly thrive as a species in the world. And we kept together. We started solving really big problems together. We started accomplishing really cool things together. By coming together, we've created machines that allow us to transcend the limitations of our minds and our brains. By coming together, we've created technology that has allowed us to venture beyond the confines of our planet. And by coming together, we've found new possibilities of perhaps leaving our planet to create new homes on others. And we've created a way to be more connected as a species. But the question that I'm faced with right now in my work as well is, are we truly more connected as a species at this moment? Is this technology that we have created helping us in the way that homes have helped us before? Is it truly connecting us, or is it kind of separating us, tearing us apart? Is the digital world too complex for our brains? Or are the emotional and empathic shortcomings of this technology kind of hindering our connection? So perhaps in this time we're faced with really fundamental questions. It seems we're eating less together nowadays. We're spending less time together. Some people want to be isolated from others. They don't feel the need to connect anymore. Does it mean we're losing contact as a species? Do we not feel connected anymore? Are we losing our homes in a sense? And where is home today anyway? Where do you think home is? Sometimes people suggest that home is where your friends are. And I really like this idea that you are at home with your friends. So I made a little search. I went through my photos to try and see what types of photos I have of two of my very best friends. And I made an interesting discovery because I have photos of two of my best friends cooking. But I only have these types of photos of my two best friends. So they feel somehow intimate, these photos. And they're reserved for the very closest ones. For example, this is Linda. She's one of my best friends. I think she's cooking a risotto at her summer cottage. This is Anna Rosa, another really close friend. She has made a fantastic fish soup that I remember enjoying with her. And to me, seeing photos like this makes me feel very close to these people. I feel closer than I would if I were viewing a selfie they'd taken somewhere. There's something very intimate, very homey in these photos. So perhaps if we're trying to redefine homes in this moment, or if we want to feel more connected, it's not about where your home is, where you live. It's rather about who are you at home with, and what you do with these people to feel at home. I think these are really lovely questions to ponder sometimes. So, ladies and gentlemen, in short, I think right now we're living in a fantastic time in human history. It's yet again this era of great technological and scientific advancement. But I feel that if we want to keep doing cool things together, if we want to keep solving big problems together, we need to keep the evolution of home alive. We need to find ways of being more connected. And I think the steps to do this are somewhat easy, actually. It's something we can all try. We just need to keep being together. Maybe we need to keep eating together more. and keep creating homes wherever we feel they might best emerge. Thank you.
Oh, hey. Thanks for having me. I'm Santa Muster. This is a kind of hard topic to talk about, and how do I relate it to my work. My work is very abstract. It doesn't really have that much to do with living. My work is usually happening outside of home. It's very abstract. I lived the past 8 years abroad, working as an artist. First 3 years in Amsterdam, then 5 last years in New York. I had a lot of addresses in my life. I think around 40, so I've been moving a lot, like already when I was a kid. My work is very abstract. It's always about the emotion, and I think that the home is a lot about emotion as well. So if you look at my work, for example, it's everything is based where I am. I really react on the surroundings. I took this video in the train. I found it like very interesting, and I kind of saw my work in it. And then later on, I created this video, and I guess maybe you can see the link between them. So I just kind of picked the emotion and applied it to my work. Oop. Most of my commercial work is based on like very weird keywords and abstract word clouds that people hire me, and they just want to give their own input for it. And these are actually the words that I picked from the briefs, picked from the emails. And it is very funny that people ask me to do like, can you do like some sort of innovative and coded slushy evocative handmade thing? And it's like, all right, let's do. I don't know how to do that. So it takes a lot of observing all the time, like, oh, okay, how should I do this? Where do I find my inspiration? For example, I got hired by MTV to do a little clip for a gala. So they just say like, please do something that is share-worthy, buzz-worthy, smile-worthy, A-worthy, art-worthy. It's like, all right, let's do something. So I'm just observing surroundings. I took these little breaths every day when I went to the studio, and it really reminded me of a 3D space where I usually work, and some paint, and then I get the sort of the work. But it's everything that I observe, and then you add Miley Cyrus in it, and I get money in my pocket. Another thing, Australian pop band asked me to do a record covers, and they said it needs to be related to past, present, and future. It needs to be iconic, pop, and colorful. I was a little lost, like, oh, what should I do? But actually, the pottery wheel helped me through it. Of course, I didn't tell them that it's going to be a pottery wheel, but it says it's going to be vinyl and it's going to be spinning forever. So it became a record cover. This is more related to living. Zeit magazine, a German magazine, they had this design issue, and it's all about the color and what you have in a home. And they asked me to do a cover. It's supposed to be red, so this is a detail of it. So this red color that makes you feel nauseous, it makes you feel like it's very overwhelming. And then another page that was pink, and this special pink, it's called Baker Miller pink, and it's supposed to make you feel very calm. So I think it was very interesting a job. Also, like made this art around these designer chairs, just like to emphasize the feeling of the object. But yeah, all my work is based on things that I'm looking at, I'm experiencing, and I feel like I wouldn't be able to do the things that I'm doing if I wouldn't be moving all the time. And I think I'm trying to show very quickly, just like as my own story, like where I've been and what I've seen. And it's just going to be a few houses that I lived in. But I think everything started, I was studying here in University of Art and Design. I studied industrial design. I was doing very minimal things, and I really wanted to have freedom and like try something new, try to live in a different way, because I always lived in Finland. And actually, I say to my professor, I'm applying to Iittala Academy to do exchange studies, and it's funny because the professor was a little bit like, oh yeah, that's like kind of loose school, and it's a little weird. Like, go ahead and make a dance performance. And I don't know, was it ironic? But I did. But yeah, and that was sort of a start that I felt like, all right, I can do a lot of stuff. There are no rules. So I ended up living here and there. This is the first apartment. Apparently it was illegal. We got kicked out after 5 months. Then 1 month in a weird house. I moved back to Helsinki. I was basically just trying to build bikes. I moved back to Amsterdam. It was a sublet for a couple of months. After that, I ended up living in a nunnery that's built in 1650, one of the most beautiful buildings I ever lived. Beautiful courtyard, amazing indoors, but it's illegal as well, got kicked out. Then I moved first time to New York, just as a tourist visa. Came back to Helsinki, another place in Helsinki, and one place in Helsinki. I wanted to go back to Amsterdam because I felt like, oh, this is very great, this is entertaining, I'm seeing a lot, I'm experiencing a lot. I lived in a old school that was closed. There's this beautiful Amsterdam school style of architecture. But yeah, it was weird too. I had 2 classrooms for myself, no kitchen. So one, I had this, another classroom, I just dry my clothes. But it didn't work out either. Then I actually ended up living at our studio that we shared. My mattress is behind the couch. Didn't really feel like home either. I moved this house, but back then it was just the frame of the house, basically just the front door and plywood. Another beautiful Amsterdam school building. This was actually one of the nicest spots. I lived there. Marble stairs, stained glass. I lived almost a year. It was sublet among someone else's stuff, and it felt weird, but it felt like home. And actually, yeah, it was pretty nice. But the worst thing was there was no internet, so I felt like I need to do something else. But I ended up being in Amsterdam quite a while, and I felt like I need to do something else. I moved to New York, and it was a downgrade again. This was my first home. It was the commune living. Now this was my studio. That's an IKEA coffee table as my chair. Very ergonomic. Actually, I was working with the TSTO for the Habitare, the visual identity, and I was just like doing the deadline over there. Then totally opposite, I got the residency from Finnish Culture Institute, and it was all of a sudden I had 4 rooms in Williamsburg, a roof terrace, but it was weird from here to there. Then I got a artist visa. I moved to Bushwick. The first time I realized what is the gentrification, and actually, yeah, I was the whitest guy in the block, and people were spray painting on the walls like "Don't sell our houses." It felt horrible. But yeah, that was the sublet. Then I moved to Park Slope for a little while, Gobble Hill. And here I lived almost a year. And again, it felt like home, but still it was weird because I was living in someone else's home, among someone else's stuff. Because these people were some sort of nomads as well, so they just went away and I stayed in their place. It was okay, but then that was over at 1.2. Last 2 years I lived in a Park Slope. in a very nice building. But it's still, I feel like there's around 20 addresses in the 10 years. I feel like I'm using, but living for me is more like, it's a service, it's almost like a prepaid plan. You just get what you need, it's not really comfortable, you get the freedom to get rid of it any time. And I feel it's a service that I need to rely on someone else all the time. Like, there's someone just shuts it off, or I just need to look at some sort of weird map or rules, like how to do and how to live. But I think like most important thing for me has been having my own studio. Like, all these times I moved, I always had my own studio. And actually it's weird that the studio started to feel more like a home, and the home where I cook and sleep, that's just a temporary thing. Just I need to pay and get it, and almost anything goes. But I think the conclusion is like, because I did all that, I kind of forced myself through in a like weird situations and moments that I need to deal with. Like, all right, where do I sleep? Where do I find a place where I can feel at least a little bit like home? But it really made it possible to actually be in New York and work with like very nice cultural institutions. So it is some sort of price that I had to pay. I work for Brooklyn Academy of Music. We had a very nice installation in Greenpoint. It's a 40 feet long, 12 meters long, floating, like very architectural, interactive installation. It was live rendered. We had drum sets, and all the drum sets were triggered by sensors. So when people were playing the drums, they're actually playing what's floating above their heads. It's a little sample. But yeah, it was a lot of fun because I felt like now through this art, I was able to bring all the boroughs, all the neighborhoods in the same place and have this party. And there's some voguing dancers we invited to come over there. Oh, there's a sound. We had a band playing, and all the drums were like hooked with these sensors. So when they were playing, they were actually like playing the animations above their heads as well. And the last thing I did was I got picked as a resident artist in New York City Ballet. And yeah, it was insane because when I moved to city, I just didn't really want to say anyone, but I was really dreaming like I wish I could do that, and somehow it happened. Oops, sorry. But yeah, it was this amazing Philip Johnson designed building at Lincoln Center. I made a 4-channel installation, video installation. And a thing for this as well was, again, like bringing all the people to see like what the ballet is, like the tickets were $30, and sort of everyone was invited. So they also like try to get people to see the ballet that people who had never been at the ballet. And I felt it was like very rewarding to see the opening. All kind of people came, everyone enjoyed it. And that's kind of like the perks being in New York. I really love the city, but also like it might get like a little bit overwhelming. And I felt like I would kind of like ignore the whole thing as like where I'm living, what is my home. And I felt like I need to find some sort of solution. This is pretty funny. This was in Thanksgiving in Queens, and it's like, oh, what should I do? Should we just light it up or not? So yeah, I made a biggest reset in my life. I decided to buy something for myself, and I bought a little piece of an island in Finland. It has a nice forest around it, and I felt like, all right, now I have some sort of base, and it felt like very fulfilling. Like now I have something at least. I have a backup plan. But of course, it was a lot of resetting as well. Like someone else lived there since 40s. So
I had to do something. So it's a lot of recycling, gutting the whole house, taking new stuff in, demolishing the whole roof. And yes, it snows in June in Finland. But the best part is, like, I'm building it. I'm the architect, and I've been enjoying it a lot. Just even though I'm more renovating, but I can just decide the details. And actually, this is like very much inspired of the Amsterdam School architecture style. But yeah, a lot of trial error. Eventually, I built the roof. And like that picture in Queens, I love resourcing my own energy. So I have solar panels, so it's like completely self-sustainable. My boat runs on solar, so it is super rewarding. And at the same time, because of the internet, I've been able to work there as well. I'm working in this is not from there, but I'm working on stuff that is related to augmented reality. And it's been funny, this project, like, no one really cares where I am, because we are really working on a topic that's completely online, and just like you're present somewhere else, you're virtual. So yeah, thanks to internet, it's possible. And thanks to nature, I can't really be there on an island, because the lake will froze, and it's going to be too fragile to go walk on it. So I need to leave before winter. So I'm still sort of floating, but I think it's all good. Thank you.